So, hi everyone. Happy Women's Day to everybody who's joined. Um, Today's session is about mindset matters. We're trying to change the narrative of imposter syndrome for women. Uh, Everybody talks about their successes. I think this is the session where we talk about our, the imposter syndrome that we all face. Every woman face at a certain point of their time. I'll hand it over to Shobita, who's going to be moderating the session. We have Meenakshi, Antonietta, and Nathalie from BT, Antonietta from Proximus, and Meenakshi from Tech Mahindra as part of this panel discussion. Over to you, Shobita.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashna. Good day, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, from wherever you're logging in. Let me begin the session by wishing everyone on the call a very happy International Women's Day. Um, to every woman who's strong and sensitive, and in our own ways rallying a big change in this world. More power to all of us, and of course to all the men and everybody else who are working with the inclusive spirit, who's supporting and championing for women all around you. So more power to you as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. We have with us today a distinguished set of panelists who've not just pushed the boundaries for themselves and for their businesses, but they've enabled teams and leaders around their ecosystem to flourish. So without much ado, let me introduce to you all of you our first guest, Miss Nathalie Vafiadis, Managing Director, Consumer CIO Digital for BT. Natalie has been in telecoms for the last 20 years, starting her career in Orange and moving on to become part of EE and now BT. She's held a number of senior roles, including 4G program lead, head of strategic programs, mobile planning development, um, mobile technology delivery, and MD CTIO for consumer business. Her current role as MD Consumer CIO provides a single point of partnership and accountability for all the technology solutions that underpin, enable, and deliver the commercial ambitions of the customer facing unit. She is part of the digital organization, creating brilliant customer and colleague experiences and driving a digital first culture at pace. Natalie is driven by the need to guarantee delivery of the best possible results and customer experience. The common thread throughout her career is working in partnership to deliver new, innovative technology and the exposure of that technology to our customers. So, Natalie, welcome. We're very excited to have you on the panel today.
Hi there, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you for inviting me today.
So, moving on to our next panelist, we have Ms. Meenakshi Vajpai, client partner and head of delivery for Telefónica. Ms. Meenakshi Vajpai has more than 25 years of experience in IT strategy, architecture, core telecom, and enterprise IT operations. She has envisioned and led various organizations from diverse sectors in their effort of organizational transformation through the use of technology, spanning internal functions, customer experience, as well as innovation for revenue. Her last role before she joined Tech Mahindra was that of the CIO of Vodafone in India and then in Turkey. She's held a number of senior management positions across industries where she has driven strategy and execution of new business initiatives. Her initiatives have won her several awards, including CIO 100, Digital Transformation Icon, to name a few. Very happy to have you on board. Welcome, Meenakshi.
Hello, everyone, and greetings on Women's Day. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And our final panelist is Antonietta Mastroianni. She's a member of the Proximus Leadership Squad since April 2021, where she acts as the Chief Digital and IT Officer. Before joining Proximus, she was the Group CIO and CDIO of the Danish TDC, Head of IT and Business Partner at Swiss Sunrise, and she's held several roles in Swisscom and H3G Italy. She's an influential IT leader with 20 years of international telecom experience in leveraging technology to drive organizational growth, performance, and profitability. She focuses on digital and agile transformation, the impact of leading edge technology on business, technology, and product innovation, as well as IT and telco transformation. She's worked in different European countries, Italy, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, to name a few. She's also is a council member of ETIS. Currently, she holds a VC finance seat in the board of directors at the Gaia X and is chairwoman in the board of directors of Proximus ADA. We're very happy and excited to welcome Antonietta into the panel. Unfortunately, due to a work emergency, she's not been able to join immediately, but she will be joining us midway through the panel, and then we'll continue, discussions of the panel with her as well as she joins in. So very excited to have all the women leaders, some distinguished women leaders in the panel today. So before I get started with the theme of the event, I would like to allow Ishita to run a few questions on poll, some very exciting questions that are lined up, which we want all the audience members participating and sharing your inputs on. So this is about the theme of the event, and we're very keen to understand everyone's point of view today.
Are we able to see the poll results on your screen?
Yes, very interesting results. Quite a balance with a lot of confidence and sometimes not feeling very confident about our achievements and contributions. We hold that thought. We'll come back to addressing this very specific poll result with the thematic questions that we have. But before we get to the thematic questions, I would like to start and begin the panel with a few personal questions, work-related questions for our panelists. Nathalie, it would be great if you could throw some light on your journey so far. What decisions have made you to get to where you are today? What were the contributions of the part of your ecosystem, your friends, your family, work colleagues, etc.?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess from a very young age, instilled in me was very much a strong work ethic, and education being really, really important. And having a confidence, but never an arrogance, always be humble. And so I guess in my kind of life journey, if you like, my desire has always been to do the very best I can at whatever I do. It's just something that's very natural for me, and I suppose it makes me probably quite competitive as well. So I worked hard at school. In terms of my degree, I'd done STEM subjects for my A levels, but I chose to do a biology degree primarily because I loved it. And my advice always when people ever come to me to say, what should I do at school, or what should I do at university, I always say do something you love, because if you do something you love, it just becomes easier. It's not such a chore. Anyway, when I'd done my biology degree, I did do a postgraduate degree in computer science, because I suppose I had that also leaning towards I need to be employable. And I had a very lucky route into telecoms. It was growing at a huge rate when I got involved. And I think, as I said before, my approach has been do every job that you do, and I have done lots of different jobs across the organisation, as you described when you introduced me. But very much just do the very best I can do, and I think that has been recognised by others, and that has meant that I've just progressed. But I am the sort of person that always wants to take the biggest challenges. If there's something that's really hard and dirty and mucky and is gonna take a real effort and need to change people's minds and bring people on a journey, I am the person that puts my hand up and says, I want to do that. I don't know why, it's just inside me. And I guess I would put that is what I would put down to why I'm in the job that I am in now. I do love working with people as well. I really enjoy seeing people grow and flourish, and it is the best feeling, when you see people that have worked for you across the years doing amazing things. So that's another part of what I do, which I love, and I find it a real motivation and an inspiration. And I feel like I do something which is very relevant to people that live, here in the UK, and that's predominantly where, my area of the business is based, and that's also something, being able to kind of touch and feel and use things that you have been part of in terms of products and services, I think is something that gives me certainly, an awful lot of feedback and pleasure, if you like. So yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you a bit of an insight into me as a person, and kind of what I'm doing here in this job right now.
That's really great to hear, Natalie. I think attitude to take the hard tasks on, and attitude is the little thing that makes a big difference, and I can see that in everything that you just said. Thank you for sharing those insights. I think I'll move to Meenakshi now. Meenakshi, could you give us a little view of what your mantra is? What's your calling that makes you wake up every day and log in each day? On an easy day and a hard day, irrespective.
Thank you, Shobita. See, there is no mantra or calling. It's kind of hard to put it in that structure. It seems like a little less stylish, but that is how it is. I have my share of, huge procrastination. I have my share of very, very lazy mornings. But having said that, I do believe that there are no escalators or no parachutes in life. There is no easy way out. What works for me is the way I approach what I do in everyday life. And I do 2 or 3 things. Allow me to share that, and I could be a little long-winded. Bear with me. The 2 or 3 things that I do. The first thing I learned with great difficulty after many, many years in the career, I learned that, do I approach what I do with joy? I always have more than I can finish in a day. Even today, I always had it. And today also I have this huge list. And at the end of the day, I say, oh my God, these 10 things I was not able to do. And there always will be things that you are always trying to catch up with. But I learned with years of working is that, am I focusing equally on personal growth as I am on my career growth? And somewhere down the line, I tried to kind of divide my attention between the two. And I really like that now. That motivates me as well, saying every day I'm learning something new, every day I'm growing a little bit there. I focus my energy on that as well. The second thing that I do, I learned from one of the very, very fascinating women leaders I worked with. Her name is Tina Unikin. Tina, if ever you get to hear what I'm saying, this is for you. What I learned from her is whatever she did, there was always so much passion behind what she was trying to do. And I will take an example. In the organization where Tina and I worked together, she was seconded to us from Singapore Telecom. I was working with Bharti Airtel at that time. And we used to go out twice a year for the top 100 people in the organization would go out twice a year for a leadership conclave where you talk strategy, you talk, planning for the year, and every organization does that. And then the leaders would take turns to organize that. That's how it was distributed. This one year, this conference was in Singapore, and Tina was part of the core team of organizers. When we reached our hotel and we opened our closets, we saw 2 t-shirts, one t-shirt and a shirt, which we were supposed to wear in the conference, neatly hung on hangers in our closets. And we were super impressed with the St. Regis management, saying, okay, the hotel staff has done that. Later on, we realized that Tina, because they were delivered very late, the night before the conference, Tina was personally pressing the t-shirts before they were hung in our closets. And when we asked her, she said, it would look really messy if all the executives turned up in unpressed t-shirts. So if the hotel staff was overworked, it was my job to make sure I participate in making it look good. And something as trivial as that was not overlooked by her. This is many, many years ago, about nearly 15 years ago, but it taught me a huge lesson on approach even the smallest work that you do with so much passion and joy that, at the end of the day, when you're going to bed, it makes you feel good. And the third thing, again, that I learned and I do is there was a question yesterday somebody asked me, how do you balance? And this is a question that is asked so often. And I said, I don't. Because it's not possible to. You can't balance everything that you want to do in life. There are so many things you want to do. You just prioritize. And you enjoy what you're doing in that moment. There are several times where we take calls and we say, should we go for this really important meeting, or should we probably attend to a sick person at home or be with our child? There are so many decisions we make every moment in our lives. But whatever decision we make, if we stay with that moment and we say, we made this choice and therefore I'm happy doing what I'm doing, it is satisfying at the end of the day. So without a single mantra, I would say there are 3 or 4 things that I bring together to give me joy. And at the end of the day, it just makes me feel good.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Meenakshi, for sharing with the anecdote as well. I mean, I see that the theme really is to do things passionately, and it's what's truly differentiating many of the leaders that we see who are successfully driving business today. Yeah, thank you for that. May I ask both of you to share with us one exciting project that you have going on right now? It could be work or otherwise. What is it that is on top of your mind right now? What is it that you're working on? Just out of interest for our audience and myself.
Okay. Well, I'm undertaking a very big kind of technology transformation, and we have tied that transformation away from our, multiple stacks, distributed, architecture, into something which is API driven, much more component based, all round. It's like it's the whole shebang. I know every company's doing it, but we have done it very much in conjunction with a real business kind of demand. And it's dangerous sometimes when you tie those two things together, but by God, does it get everyone sort of pointing in the same direction to make sure that you make that big leap as opposed to just do incremental transformation. So I'd say I'm under really big pressure at the moment to say what I said can happen, and the fact that we can build something new and we can deliver for the business can come together, but it's extremely hard, and I have a team of people who are absolutely breaking their backs in order to make this happen. They're working at the weekends, they're staying up late to fix defects, and again, it's the joy that you see when you're in it, when you're absolutely in it amongst it. And I'm trying to be really, really close with the team and experience it all with them. It is joyful. The breakthroughs make it all worthwhile. And of course, we are going to get to the big end result. We are going to bring customers onto this completely new architecture, and service them in a way that they've never experienced before. And that will be the big end goal that we're all driving for. But the journey is kind of what makes it, and it's tough. There's been tears for sure, but lots of joy too.
Exciting. I hope our Tech Mahindra colleagues are taking notes here as well. On a side note there. Meenakshi, over to you.
I'm sure you saw me nodding vigorously as Nathalie was talking. I was kind of so relating to what you were saying. Projects of that nature, it's just there are so many moving parts, and everyone comes together. Every single thing that goes live or is a success is a cause for celebration. It is indeed the fun part of implementing a project. But since you took an example of a work-related project, Nathalie, I'll steer clear of that. Of course, the fun part that I am working on now is delivering a similar project for my client here. And I'm learning German. That's project as well. Learning a new language here, not easy. I take my word for it, but I'm enjoying it. On a serious note, out of work, I had started a project in my previous organization and I'm taking this example specifically because today is the 8th of March and it's contextual and it's relevant. I had started the project of a group of women, young girls I was mentoring. My organization was very generous in allowing me to continue with that project as an outsider even after I have exited. So what we do is we come together as a team every month and we just talk about the problems that we are facing. It need not be just gender related. It is not necessary that we just talk gender, any problems which is work related, anything that we can learn from each other and all of them. We are 12 of us and the 10 of the girls are really young girls. A couple of them are young mothers. So the nature of the problem is very different for each one of us. But we just come together, we talk about our problems. I talk about mine as well. It's not just that I'm giving out advice. And we try to discuss them and try and solve each other's problems. I keep hearing back from them on the value they see in just listening to each other and talking to each other. And I feel that it's a very gratifying project for me at the moment. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I think on that note, I would like to take from both your narratives to segue to our theme for today's discussion, because the journey is indeed hard and the outcome is very beautiful when you look back at it. And during this journey, I mean, we can talk about all the success and we can talk about the medals we won, but it's also important to talk about days of self-doubt, days of not feeling good enough. It's not because we want to downplay the hard work behind the success, but there's a need to openly discuss the hard days, about not being able to find our way, sometimes not having enough confidence in our abilities, and constantly feeling incompetence at times, which is truly the way to make success more sweeter, by discussing the journey associated with it. And that leads us to our topic of the day, which is changing the narrative of imposter syndrome for women. I'd really like for both of you to give us a viewpoint on the topic of imposter syndrome. It's something that we know impacts everyone, not just women, a lot of individuals worldwide. But in today's discussion, we wanted to focus on how is this impacting women at our workplace, both in terms of our assessing our own self abilities and our going through our journeys, but also how is it impacting in delivering the outcomes in our workplace. So could you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, I think if you doubt yourself, even when you are doing all the right things, then you are going to feel like an imposter of sorts. Even if you're eminently qualified for the job and you have the education and training and you know it, and you've got, you've done the groundwork, but you still feel a fraud, then you've got that imposter syndrome kind of playing out. And I think, it's difficult. I mean, and anyone can feel that imposter syndrome. It's definitely not just a women thing, but because we're, here on International Women's Day, I think it is fair to say that because of the representation of women at senior levels is just not where it needs to be, that the fact you don't have that visual representation of that whenever you look out, it kind of makes it even more likely that you're going to feel that way if you're a woman. And some of those gender stereotypes that exist, I think, again, are going to drive unfortunately, women to feel that way. And that can't be a good thing, in terms of, all the big work that we need to do, the immense kind of mountains that organizations need to climb, particularly in an environment that we're in, post-COVID and, inflation and all of those things. It's not going to be good if some of your workforce have that feeling that they are just not good enough. And I guess, what can we do? But I won't go there yet. Maybe it'd be good to hear your views as well.
Meenakshi?
So what I will not repeat what you said. Heartily agree with all that you said, Nathalie. But what I will do is I will try and add a different perspective to it. I was born in India, and I have lived most of my life in India, educated there, and understand the socioeconomic atmosphere in India better than where I am staying today, which is Germany. India has a large middle class population, and there's a lot of focus for several years now on educating the girl child. Education in general is a very, very aspirational thing because, of course, they want their children to do better than themselves. So it's a big focus. But educating the girl child also is a big focus. And therefore, we are taught, and by we, I mean girls, we are taught from childhood, we have to work hard, we have to get good grades, we have to study hard and make something of ourselves. I have heard that so often, not only in my household, but everywhere in the circle that I move. You have to make something of yourself. So the training is to be economically independent. It's extremely important for women to become economically independent. The focus has been there for some years. But what I saw missing, and I realized it much later in my career, is that there is no focus or no training or teaching to build a career. So as a result, what happens is most of the young girls, when they used to, at least at the time that I started working, once they had joined an organization, they felt they were done. Now we are economically independent. I get a salary home. I am working. I have arrived in life. And they really had trouble trying to understand what is the meaning of building a career? Where do I go from here? Because that was the goal that they had set for themselves. So when a conversation about progression in the organization happened, they didn't know how to deal with it. It is a form of the imposter syndrome, I would say. They began doubting themselves, that we were never trained for this. They began doubting their ability to go beyond what they had been aspiring for many, many years. And I remember that I was one of those girls, and there was a program that was institutionalized several years ago at that time, for us to understand what it means to navigate the corporate culture, for us to understand what it takes to get to the next level. So I feel that a lot of the culture, socioeconomic environment that we grow in also induces this self-doubt or this syndrome that we suffer from. Clearly, obviously, the question that you asked was, it is impacting outcome. Clearly, if there are doubts, the outcome will be impaired. So therefore, we have to kill it at the root first before we start focusing on the outcome.
No, there are, again, not to be kind of gender stereotypist myself, but, there is lots of research that says that when a new job comes up, a man will often feel that they can do 70%, I'll bluff the next 30, but I think the natural reaction for women is often, am I ready for that? Is that too big for me? What if they catch me out, or I don't know that bit and I know it and I'll have to admit it, and that kind of difference of perspective, I think, is something that really we have to address and teach. Actually, I think it is about preparing women for that adventure of their career, and giving the right kind of skills to deal with what you don't know, but be okay with it. So yeah, I always find that quite interesting, and I do think that that's why there is that slight thing where having kind of quotas for women as well, I think can also work against us in terms of, you know, if a job has a, you know, or a company at senior level has some quotas for women, to try to address the balance, there is yet another reason to think that maybe I'm only here because I'm a woman. So it wasn't my skills that got me here. It was some other factor that had to be addressed. So that feels a bit harmful as well.
That's a hard one to navigate for sure. And I've heard about that research you spoke about, Nathalie, that I think if a man is 50% confident of getting a particular role, he can articulate it to be about 80%. Sorry, while a woman probably ends up articulating it like we're 20 or 30% confident to deliver that. I think that's the part of problem that we're talking about here. Just to interrupt the conversation a little bit, we have Antonietta on the call. She's joined us, but is unable to turn on her video. So Ashna, Ishita, if you could please help sorting that out. We'd really like her to come into the conversation as well.
Sure, I'm on it.
Yeah, Antonietta, I'm not sure if you could hear the first part of the conversation, or if the mic is working, would you be able to speak without a video in the meantime?
You can see.
Now, yes,
Oh,
perhaps.
perfect.
Sorry, because I could not unmute myself. No, I've just logged in, so I've just heard the last couple of minutes of the conversation. Sorry for that, but I had a bit of
No problem.
a conflict in my agenda.
No, not a problem at all. We had just gotten started on the theme of the panel discussion on the changing the narrative of imposter syndrome for women at workplace, and Nathalie and Meenakshi had given their views on why we think we have this problem with in the community in at workplace. We would really like to hear your view, Antonietta, on women experiencing imposter syndrome at work. Why do we think we're not good enough?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because it's very clear that also simply when you are in a meeting, men are more able to sort of be dominant in the conversation and to shine much more. I don't know where it comes from. Perhaps it's education, or it's our desire to be perfect. But it's a bit in our nature. So this can have. I'm an optimist. I always see the positive side of things, but this can have also a positive side. So I have always seen in a way that. I always have been very prepared to every meeting, to every board, to anything, because I really was going deep into things. So this makes a big difference, because I think if a woman is taking care of something, is really taking care very well till the end. So it's quite sure that it gets done, also to some attention to the details. So I think the positive side of that is that certain things eventually will be taken care of much better. But definitely, I think we need to learn to shine more and to be more confident. I think one of the major showstopper in the advancement in the career for women is no question of education skills. It's just about self-confidence, but also the capability to be less shy in talking about topics, even if we don't know the last little details. So I think it's something that it takes a bit of courage to win, definitely.
Indeed, I think all of you addressed the topic of I think the societal pressure and the surroundings around us and the stereotypes also contributing um, to this feeling amongst women. How do you think we can really challenge this stereotype? I mean, we can work on ourselves for sure, and in our preparation for, be it a meeting or for being qualified for a job, the education part of it. But how do we challenge the stereotypes and the societal pressures around it? How do we address people around us to enable us to deal with this?
I think from my side, it's extremely important not to be not to be put under pressure by the dominance of men. So and also to make sure that you have a sort of connection also with other women, because definitely this can help. I think the mentorship program is extremely important because once you have the example of somebody that made it through, or you can ask questions, you can connect. I think it's very important. And also I don't know, I think it's just going through it, and perhaps the first time will be difficult, the second time as well, and then the third time you make it, and then the fourth time will be natural. So it's just like challenge yourself and just do it, and after a while it becomes sort of natural. So perhaps these first 3 times of try that are difficult, it's a necessary step to reach the right level of confidence. And then, of course, the society change when there are good examples which are pushed forward. So I think more women are in technology in the top position, are leading the path. More people would feel it normal, and the more other women also would feel comfortable to do it. So
Right, right. I think having that representation in the ecosystem will really help us change the bigger picture.
definitely, yes.
Yeah. Uh, Natalie, could you speak a little about what roles do mentors and sponsors have to play um, in helping women overcome this? Because it's not just women we're working with. We have excellent leaders, men and others around us who are championing for women um, every day. So, what kind of role do they need to play in helping us through this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a mentor of any gender, has a real role to play. And I would say to people that are feeling like they're suffering from that imposter syndrome, don't hold it in. If you do, then others will too feel that way. So sharing that with some of your colleagues in a safe space, but also with your mentor, I think it's absolutely fine to say, this is how I feel sometimes in this kind of situation. And I can definitely, there are people that I would pick out in my career who have really, really helped me, and often they have been men. And interestingly, often men with multiple daughters. I think that, and sort of tapping in on some of that. A successful man who has female children, he will want them to be successful. And I think that tapping into some of that thinking can really help. So the other thing I would suggest that people do kind of amongst, for themselves, is ask for feedback from people. How am I doing? How is it when I arrive at the board? Or how is it when I give the update? And I think that, you'll be surprised at some of the feedback you get. Of course, you have to accept that there's going to be some feedback, which is, it would be even better if. But I think a lot of the feedback can be very confidence building and help to assure you that actually you're doing a good job. Actually you bring something different to the table. And that's to be kind of, rewarded and appreciated and enjoyed by people around you. So I guess it's not just on the mentor to kind of give all the advice and to clear the path. A lot of the effort, I think, has to be on the individual as well, and finding ways to build confidence. So yeah, that would be my.
Meenakshi, do you perhaps have something to add, or a potential example because we all have, people who've championed for us in our lives, and we are very grateful for such mentors. And Antonietta also alluded to having, the right mentors in the organization also to shape our, progress. Could you
Absolutely.
speak a little about that?
Absolutely, and I will take an example, Shobita. Of course, agreeing with all the things that have been said by both Natalie and Antonietta. Trying to add a bit to that so that I don't repeat what is said. So one of the things that mentors can do, and it happened with me, so I can talk about it, is to just listen. And the advice that I got from my mentor once was just be yourself. The background to that was that I was in a annual appraisal cycle, and it was I was not that junior. It was later in my career, and the feedback I got was surprisingly, my manager said, "Meenakshi, you're too kind," and I said, "Oh, that's nice to hear. I thought that was a virtue." And he said, "No, it's not praise. You're too kind." And and I'm still, even today, I'm struggling to understand why that would be a constructive feedback. I thought that would be a very good thing. What probably he meant to say was I was too soft. And my mentor, when I spoke to him, it was a man, and he still is my mentor. I go to him with many problems in my life. And he said, are you able to get the things you need to get done by speaking softly? If that is the case, just be yourself. He said one more thing that I will never forget in my life. And he said, if all women, and there's a lot of talk about how men get something done and women don't because they don't behave in the same manner. And he said, if all women began behaving and thinking and responding in the same manner that men do, why do we need diversity? It's the very fact that you are different and you bring a different process on the table is the reason we need gender diversity. So just be yourself. If, however, your behavior of kindness or softness is impeding an outcome, then you should think about it. So I feel sometimes mentors can give a completely different perspective by just listening to the problem statement and self-doubt that I exhibited at that time, and it changes the perspective.
True. I think the diversity perspective is diverse perspective is so important, which is what organizations are trying to embrace today. But how are they doing it? Are they doing it for the right reasons? Like Natalie mentioned earlier, it's just the fact that there's a quota also makes us feel sometimes very conscious. Are we deserving of this? So how do you think an organization or a unit or a department for that matter should go about addressing diversity and inclusivity in an organization, not just as a check in the box activity, but truly embracing the need for different perspectives in an organization. I or to all of you, I mean, I'm sure all of you will bring different perspectives here. Antonietta, from a Proximus point of view, if you could share how you've looked at this, and Natalie from a BT perspective, and Meenakshi from your own team in Telefónica within Tech Mahindra, it would be good to get a view on. Everybody wants diversity and inclusivity. They want to address this for right or wrong reasons, but how should they really go about doing this in the right way?
I think from my side, it's extremely important to make everybody comfortable and be really ready to the diversity, to listen the different opinion of many different people, to be ready to different experience, different way of thinking. Because sometimes we all want diversity, but if we have in the room somebody which has different ideas, sometimes we are not really ready for that. So I think this is extremely important, because when people feel accepted for who they are, how they think, what they say, they feel also entitled of expressing their opinion or expressing concern. Then, of course, they are welcome, and they stimulate other people to join. I have seen several times also in my past a situation where everybody wants diversity, but then the moment you have somebody really diverse in the room, it's always very difficult to handle. So I think these are the situations to avoid, or we really have to be ready also for that, because I remember I was once in a situation where I had people from 56 different nationality. And then at some point in time, I had the challenge that every sort of communication I was sending out, there was always somebody upset, because it doesn't matter whatever I was saying in whatever way, there was always somebody interpreting things in a different way, because of course, having so much diversity. And at the beginning, I was a bit upset. Then I said, I don't know how to do. But then I said, it's good. It means that the team is so diverse that also having a different interpretation of the same things, it's a good sign, and you should really be able to accept all of them and take it in the right way. And this is extremely important, really, to be ready for that, to be ready to accept different behavior, different opinion. There is no right or wrong. And of course, in the respect of people, and be ready to go for it, because sometimes also it's not easy.
Absolutely, it's not easy many a times, and how the intent is to develop the culture of being able to embrace diversity as well, as much as we want to bring in diversity. Natalie, before I ask you for your opinion on this, I just wanted to open to the audience as well. Please, I mean, put your questions on the chat. We're happy to take that up with the panelists. You've been listening to them for the last 45 minutes. So if there are any questions from the audience, I'd request everybody to please put it on the chat.
I think most of all, it's about being prepared to learn, and it's about being prepared to say, I don't know, I don't understand. Maybe some of the reactions that Antonietta just talked about is, she wasn't expecting them. But it's about kind of accepting them and thinking about that and learning a bit more, and and also some of that acceptance is you will never get everything perfect. But if we allow people to express how they feel, and we take a very personal approach about how things land with people, and when you say something, how it's received, I think that's all of us doing our bit to try to encourage diversity. And that's really important. And, of course, there are really important things like, I think it is important to say that, you will look at X% of women's CVs for senior level jobs. Because if women aren't in the mix, they're definitely not going to get the job. So I think some of those things are important. But I am also conscious about that kind of quota approach when it and it being a kind of very stat driven thing. But mostly it's about the encouragement. And I think tying it back to the topic that we're talking about, where women may just not feel that they can, or that they're not ready, we have to encourage women more into these positions and show them where, they've got a shot at it. They're in the mix, but we maybe just have to help to bring them into the mix so they do have a real chance.
I think everybody in the audience have also picked up on the need for a mentor in sort of encouraging women to deal with the syndrome. There's a question from Akanksha. How do we find a mentor? How do you think the newer people joining the organization, women joining the organization, and at different stages, be it a fresher joining or an experienced person joining, will always look for guidance from people who've done and delivered similar roles. So how do you go about finding a mentor?
I think there's no fixed rule, is there? I mean, I think, you may come across somebody and you think that they might be a great mentor for you, and you can approach them. If people do that with me, I always say that's lovely, but let's chat first. Let's see if I can really offer you something that is going to help you kind of learn, grow and develop and going to be right. of course, in lots of organizations, there are programs that you can tap into too. So definitely go and explore what's available. But it could also be somebody outside. It could be a friend of one of your parents. It could be anybody. But I think really think about what it is that you want to gain from your mentor, and it's kind of as much interview them about whether they can give you what you need. Have they got the space and time to be able to help you? Do they think about things in a way in which you're going to respect and grow from?
No, I also think there are not specific rule. For me, when I had a mentor, it was extremely important to feel very, very comfortable, to feel understood, and to be in a position to feel vulnerable, so the other person can really give you advice. If you're not free or you are not comfortable in doing that, then it's very difficult.
I was going to add that Akanksha, look for people you are comfortable with, and as very rightly Antonietta said, comfortable with and who you can talk to openly. It is just a mutual relationship that builds. But I do want to add on top of that, as panelists or as leaders in the organization, at least in my organization, it is as much the responsibility of the individual to find a mentor as I would raise my hand and say the responsibility of the organization to create an environment of mentorship. Probably the organization should take it as a formal structure. And I love the fact that Nathalie, you brought up the quotas point twice. It is a very controversial topic. I have sat on debates on that. That's not the topic of discussion here, but I picked it up just to make a point that once as an organization, we have decided and we agree that diversity and inclusiveness is important for us, then we have to now talk how far are we willing to go to inculcate that in the organization. Are we going to go as far as and as seriously as we look at our P&L, for example? I don't know. It's for us to decide. But if we believe that is the right thing to do, then we have to create a structure to it, and we have to decide to go through it formally and report on it formally.
Absolutely. Thank you, Meenakshi, for that. I see Sandeep has come on video. It definitely has a question, I'm sure, for everybody.
Firstly,
thank you, Sandeep, for joining and participating.
It's been a fascinating last 45 minutes. Thank you so much, Nathalie, Antonietta, Meenakshi, and Tribita for, exciting last 45 odd minutes. I have one question, and this is something that I've been discussing with both Shobita and Meenakshi. One thing that we have said as for my European management team, we said that we should have at least, if not more, 30% women. We are nowhere close to that, and that's getting to that, and even close to that, or dreaming about coming to that 30%. And I know we were talking about putting a number or a quota. I don't see that as a quota at all. It's an aspiration, and I think if more the merrier, I would say. But two parts of the question: what is it that we can do different than what we are doing today, and how can all of you help in getting us to a stage where we can claim that at least we are 50% or 80% there to what we have aspired for. How can we do things differently? Because one of the things I was telling Meenakshi when we met in Lisbon was we should not be coming back again next year and talk about saying, you know what, we have probably improved like 3 percentage points, but again, not significantly different. How would you I'm looking at a couple of very disruptive thoughts in saying, how do we kind of really push the needle out here?
I have one perhaps, which is really basic. I think, at least for me, sometimes when I've been in a situation where I was the only woman in the board, there were some moments where I felt very isolated, which was not that much in the board meeting where you discuss topic, but more in the social event. Because if you are the only one, then men tends to be always more friends among themselves, and you feel always a bit the outsider, which then it gets very difficult. So I think perhaps we should learn to be friends also in the same way you connect with men, also to connect with women, to create the same kind of inclusiveness, because it's very important, and the team spirit that you can build eventually outside the board room, it helps a lot also in the boardroom. So if you are not able to feel included outside, it's very difficult to be included also inside. So, and sometimes this is it's very basic. It's basic to sort of human being, but it's for me extremely important as well.
I haven't got anything to add to that, and I'm very conscious of the time because I think
Of
we
the
were due to
time, yeah.
finish. So I
Right.
am going to need to run, unfortunately.
No, I see the time constraint as well. I think just on closing notes, Sandeep, we've been very actively working towards this, and we've had a number of discussions internally. Just a push to. There's a lot of unconscious bias. Even women end up doing having that mindset sometimes very unconsciously. All genders sort of unconsciously based on a condition end up creating such environments. I think a conscious attempt by at an individual level to change and to be more inclusive by every individual, and an organization level attempt, as Meenakshi said, to bring mentorship and to create an environment of inclusivity. I think those two working hand in hand probably will help us change the statistics for next year. So I see Nathalie has had to log out. In the interest of time, I'll just want to say some concluding notes here. So thank you to each and everyone who's participated today. Antonietta, thank you for taking the time out. I know you were busy with other things, and to Nathalie as well. We've held her for longer than an hour, including the briefing before the meeting. And Meenakshi, thank you for taking the time and giving us with examples, giving us insights to addressing the imposter syndrome topic, as well as inclusivity generally in our workspace. I know there's a lot more questions from the audience on the chat. We'll compile them, share them with the panelists, and try and get everybody the answers. To reach out to your leaders, to your within your ecosystem, to have your to identify mentors and work with them. And within Tech Mahindra, please do reach out to any of the women or all leaders, I would say, to establish that mentor ecosystem. That's something we'll very actively work in within the organization as well this financial year.
Thank you, Shobita. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Cannot
you so
thank all
much.
of you enough. So have a very nice evening, and again, happy International Women's